Hi, this is Michael Josephson for the Josephson Institute of Ethics. What I want to talk about in this segment is the really basic question of why should people in business really be concerned about ethics? And obviously, there are two answers. The one that business people most respond to, and when we do major workshops for large companies, I guess it's what they want to hear most, and that is, it's good business. Good ethics is good business. And at least we certainly know that bad ethics is bad business. So there's no question about it that in today's environment, where there are so many ways in which people can be recording you or tracking any kind of things you say and do, that misbehavior is so much more likely to come to light, that bad conduct can be incredibly damaging. Good Lord, we have all kinds of examples. You remember when Arthur Andersen was one of the most respected companies in the world, and certainly one of the largest accounting firms. It doesn't exist anymore, primarily because of some bad judgments of a relatively few people. So the first reason anybody who's sensible about trying to create a sustainable, effective business or organization has to be concerned with ethics is it's a risk management strategy. The simple reality is that any kind of conduct that is perceived as being unethical, whether it's unfair, whether it's dishonest, whether it's irresponsible, can come back to hurt the company in major, major ways. And therefore, just like any other risk management strategy, the idea is to identify those temptations, those situations in your particular business or in your particular job that might tempt you to take an ethical shortcut and therefore subject yourself and your personal career or your organization to some heavy costs. So there isn't any question that there is a great deal of self-interest involved in the question of why should business be concerned about ethics and doing the right thing. But the fact remains that no matter how much you talk about self-interest, not everybody thinks that way. They think they can get away with it. Look, I'm no paragon of virtue. I don't know how much you can see in this, but I want to be thin. Well, I didn't make it. The fact of the matter is I want to be thin whenever I'm not hungry. The problem is that when I'm hungry, I'll rationalize. So if I want a donut, I'll get a Diet Coke. Well, the same thing often happens in business. So you can tell people that unethical conduct is disadvantageous, but maybe I won't get caught, or maybe just this once. And so the reality is that people still do pretty silly things. I mean, how many times, if you're a manager, how many times even in the last month did you hit your head and say, what were they thinking? Where you had one situation or another where people just made the bad judgment that if they really, really understood that honesty and fairness and respect really were good business, they wouldn't do it. So yes, we want to talk always about the self-interest behind good ethics. But the remaining factor is good ethics is still good ethics. Whether it's good business or not, it's what's expected of a decent and good person. The kind of person you want to be in the eyes of your family, the kind of person you want to be in the eyes of your community, in the eyes of your children and your parents. And so I really want to remind you, and we're going to talk a lot about these tapes, about the idea of personal integrity is still the strongest and most controlling factor in trying to be sure that you and the people who work with you and in your organization adhere to the highest standard of conduct. Because whether or not the business flourishes, if your own personal career, if your own personal reputation, if your own personal self-esteem ends up being pummeled by the fact that you are criticized for bad decisions and bad ethics, that isn't a good life, and that's not the kind of life we want you to lead. We do think good ethics is good business, but it's also a good way to lead your life. And what we're going to be doing in other parts of these tapes is to give you methods of being able to identify where those temptations are, where the donuts are, where the rationalizations are that you might use, and see if we can help you work your way through it so you can be as successful as you really want to be, but also be the kind of person you want to be. Because we really do believe that character counts.